Rush Rally Origins is part of the physical Rush Rally collection that I obviously own. This collection contains Rush Rally Origins, which is essentially a remake of the very first Rush Rally for the iOS that I never played since I don't play mobile at all, and Rush Rally 3. But for now, I am just going to talk about Rush Rally Origins and leave Rush Rally 3 for a different time. So, back in the 80s and 90s, quite a lot of racing games were top-down racers. You know, like many Micro Machines games are. And exactly that is what Rush Rally Origins ultimately is, a top-down racer that pays respects to the old days. Sure, even today there are indie developers that create top-down racers, but they don't seem to get that much attention. And honestly, while I love racing games, top-down racers feels weird to play for me, and therefore I don't have much experience with them, since I prefer the usual third-person or cockpit view style instead of helicopter style, aka top-down view. But hey, I try to be open to everything, so let's do exactly that. Overall, I was surprised by this game and quite a few things stood out to me. But let's tackle one thing at a time. Entering the menu, the first thing I did was see what everything does, like the options I have and whatever. And as usual, I go to the settings first. I will immediately praise the developer Brown Monster Games because they allow the player to drive however the player wants to drive. Meaning they don't force the fucking analog stick up your ass, and I am beyond thankful for that. Yeah, I use the D-pad to steer and absolutely hate to drive with the analog stick. I know most people drive with the analog stick, but I prefer not to. And I explained why when I talked about Formula Retro Racing way back then. You can change almost everything, even changing the resolution from 180p to 360p and going from 60 FPS or higher down to 30 FPS. Why? Just because. But hey, nobody can complain about settings. I say the more you can customize, the better. After you get out of the options, you will have Time Trial Championship, Single Race and Multiplayer. I will skip Multiplayer because I simply don't care about that, but I guess you can play either against others online or at least drive against leaderboard times worldwide. Heck, maybe you can even drive couch co-op, which is awesome, but again, I don't care since I am a pure single player dude. So let's go to the time trial. Here you will drive against the best times the game has to offer and try to beat gold. But if you think this will be an easy thing to do, then you are in for a treat. Because while silver is quite fine to achieve as long as you don't hit anything, gold is quite a challenge. But it's not an unfair challenge at all, you just need to be almost perfect to beat it. Meaning you have to literally be in the zone. For people that don't know what the zone is, that's the point where you are so hyper focused on something and trying to achieve peak performance, in this case the game, to the point where you don't care about anything else. Of course, this was an oversimplification. If we look here, you see letters from D to A. This isn't the difficulty of the opponent or the time to beat, because all of those are actually set. These letters just change the classification of the cars. The higher the classification, the better the car is, and accordingly, the opponents will be as fast as you and the times to beat will be shorter. There are a few nice things about this. For one, you have to drive a certain distance with a specific car to even be able to level up its classification. You can change the classification at any time before each race or event, and you can change the upgrades however you like. And yes, you can do this with every single car. So this is quite a nice system they've got here. Single race works like a rally cross. You have 6 cars and obviously the goal is to pass the finish line in first place to get gold medal at whatever classification you are driving in. Championship works more like what we should be used to in rally games. You have 6 stages total, and the total time you need to complete all stages will decide who wins. Essentially, this is how all 3 modes work, and for a game like this, it's more than enough. And yes, it's quite a lot of fun to drive around. But this is me saying this, someone that doesn't enjoy top-down races too much. I couldn't find anything bad with the controls or driving physics. They are responsive, dependable, and quite good. Mind you, however, I was driving using the D-pad on a Switch Pro controller, so I don't know how it feels driving with the analog stick. Seriously though, there is nothing to complain about regarding the physics. Of course, you have to keep in mind that while it can feel somewhat realistic to drive, Rush Rally still is an arcade racer at heart. You will have 3 cars in the beginning to use, but will be able to unlock 13 in total. To unlock those, you just need to drive a certain amount of kilometers and then you will unlock those. By looking at the cars, you know what these are supposed to be. Come on. A Lancia Stratos, a Mini Cooper, a Mitsubishi Lancer Evo, etc. But I guess licenses were an issue, so the developers simply changed the names of these. However, the developers also know that we know what these cars are, so they gave us the option to rename these if we want, which is a nice touch. One other nice touch they added is that while somewhat hard to see, the cars actually get damaged. Well, at least the body gets damaged, but even then, the cars need to take quite a lot of punishment to be visible. While the damaged models are a nice touch, it would have been even nicer if the cars actually got damaged as a whole, meaning exterior as well interior. Or at least regarding the exterior, the damage could have been increased, like the car losing its wing, a tire, or something, but well, whatever. You have 8 countries total with 6 stages each. You will drive in Finland, which probably has the widest stages, Greece with its sharp corners and it's a lot of fun, Sweden with its snow tracks, UK with its hills, Kenya and its savannas, New Zealand with its rocky stages, USA with its fast straights, and Japan with its beautiful sceneries. So no, this isn't a game that you can play while taking a shit. You know, since this originally was a mobile game, you really need to get into that zone. Especially considering the weather effects like snow, rain, etc. in the terrain you drive on, like tarmac, ice, etc. will affect the driving. You also have to account for day and night time as well, but sadly the nighttime should have been darker. Because otherwise this looks like it's still turning nighttime, but it's not actually night. Almost like it's still dusk or something. Similarly, the cloudy and rain effects could have been increased a bit more to make it feel more realistic and challenging. Just like the driving physics and the controls, I don't really have anything bad to say about the visuals and the sound. Rush Rally Origins looks quite fine everywhere you look, with nice looking touches like the dust your car leaves behind and such, but the shadows can look a bit weird. and it also sounds quite nice. I mean, there aren't enough tracks to listen to, but seriously, come on, you won't much care about it because outside of the main menu, you won't even have time to pay attention to the background music because on how focused you need to be to win. Now, you will see humans in basically every single track, or in Kenya's case, you will even see giraffes and zebras. And while that's nice, they don't have animations at all. In itself, I wouldn't mind that as much, but what I find weird is that they are as solid as trees or rocks for some reason. It would have been a nice touch if they actually got out of the way or something if you happened to almost run them over. After all, this would have easily been possible on a console like the Nintendo Switch. Why isn't it there? While the game works quite well for the most part, there still are a few issues. The main one is this. It happens rather rarely, but still, this should not happen at all. But again, that's the biggest issue, so well, it's fine, I can get over it. It's just a bit annoying having to see this and necessarily being forced to restart the race or event. Some other issues are rather small ones. Like I've said, the shadows can look quite bad at times, no qualification, which means that you always start from the back, and the game can be quite repetitive after a while. Well, that's normal for racing games, especially if you play it for weeks on end, but here, while unlocking tracks, cars and upgrades is really nice, at least regarding the tracks, you have to unlock them on every single mode. Meaning, for example, if you unlock Kenya and all 6 events in time trial, you still need to unlock it again in the championship and then again on single race mode, which can feel rather tedious. The championship could have also been improved on by mixing different stages from different countries instead of driving in all 6 stages in the same country and call that a championship. Or in this mode, add a bit more to it, like an actual team management or not allowing to restart the stage as often. You know, because you don't have restart limits at all in the game. You can do it whenever you want and how many times you want. The co-driver could have been different for each car, but instead it's always the same one, which is a bit lazy. Another small nitpick is this outline thing in the pause menu. This should have been thicker to make it easier to spot, because especially with the yellow one, I sometimes had to look twice to know where it was. I mean, each mode has its own color and it's a nice touch that this outline corresponds to the color of the mode you are playing in, but the line is too thin. But hey, maybe I'm asking too much from a team consisting of just 2 people? Because honestly, for that kind of team, Rush Rally Origins turned out to be a damn good and fun game. So high levels of respect from my part. So overall, Rush Rally Origins is a really fun and quite challenging game with quite a lot of unlockables, even though rather monotonous unlockables, and you will need to drive for quite a few hours if you want to be a completionist. This is a game that puts you in the zone, and once you are in it, you will find it hard to get out.